Hello my dear friends, you're in the Military Summary channel, and this short video we're going to discuss the most important events that took place during the previous night at the local time. First we're going to start with the southern part of Ukraine with the Black Sea. During the previous night there was the greatest storm of the century according to information. This is for example Odessa. As you can see, everything was covered with snow, very powerful wind, and obviously there were no possibilities neither the Russians nor the Ukrainians to make any actions in this direction. And basically during the previous night there were no strikes, missile strikes, neither from the Russian nor from the Ukrainian side, no drone attacks and so on. So when talking about the military situation, the situation was pretty stable. Before we continue with the situation on the ground, I would like to discuss with you another important another important article that I found in the open source. On this video, for example, on these photos, for example, you can see Crimea, to be more precise, Sevastopol area, and as you can see there is a small effect right in this middle, in the central part of the every single screen, like this one, something like try to hide the picture. And according to this article, this is not like the human hands work to cover this or that territory. Basically, according to information we have, maybe this is speculation or fake update, I'm not sure, but that information was pretty interesting to me, so I wanted to share it with you. So according to the information we have, the Russians have electronic radar distortion system that's used to disrupt satellite imagery. So every time when the NATO or Western satellites are flying above the territory of Crimea or above the territory of Russian base, the Russians have possibilities to not allow the Western satellites to make normal pictures of the military objects and military territory above the territory of Crimea. So very interesting situation, yet we haven't seen the real results of the usage of this system. Maybe the Russians have just started using them. Anyway, this is very interesting, and of course this is another technology, a step from the Russian side in direction of the greatest victory, obviously. Now let's move to the situation on the ground, and we got a lot of interesting updates from Krynky. Mainly, we have, as you can see, we haven't received even a single geolocated confirmation, but we have a lot of messages from the ground, and most of them are coming from Krynky. According to the Russians, the Ukrainians took a decision to start movements. So the Russians are saying that they see movement from the Ukrainian side, but as I understand, the Russians don't know or still haven't understood what exactly the Ukrainians are doing. Either the Ukrainians are trying to evacuate from this territory, or they're trying to move some more fresh forces, because currently there is a very bad weather in Kherson area as well, and neither the Russians nor the Ukrainians are able to use FPV drones nor reconnaissance drones. The Russians, as you can see, are no longer able to use aviations like FAB-500, so there is a small operational pause. That works obviously in Ukrainian favor. And now the Russians are asking themselves whether the Ukrainians took a decision while there is a calm area to completely evacuate from Krynky, or just to evacuate wounded and killed soldiers, or the Ukrainians are planning to move more forces on this area while this calm situation from military side. The weather is very awful, but this awful weather gave the Ukrainians a window of opportunities. Now we are moving further to Zaporizhzhia area. We have a significant number of updates from this territory, but we got more geolocations from this area, from, let's say, western flank of Robotyne, from the southern flank of the same city and village. We have some statistic information and so on, but to understand the global picture of all updates, of course, it's better to increase the number of updates, at least since the beginning of since the 25th of November at least, because during the previous 3 days, 25th, 26th and 27th night of 27th of November, there were very heavy clashes on this area when the Ukrainians tried to start another storming offensive operation from Robotyne in direction of the northern part of Novoprokopovka. That Ukrainian attack was repelled. The Ukrainians had significant losses and were forced to step back. Also, as a result of those clashes, the Russians launched their own counter-offensive, and the Russians managed to restore positions over some trenches and fortifications that located in the area between Robotyne and Novoprokopovka. Prokopovka. If you remember, yesterday we discussed another Ukrainian attack. Today we got more details. Today we see the video of infantry storm. So basically the Ukrainians during the previous days managed to concentrate lots of infantry on the edge positions in the north of Prokopovka. The Ukrainians tried to attack during the daylight, as you can see. They managed to get very close to the village. Maybe the Ukrainians were expecting for something, maybe some artillery preparation or artillery support, but according to this video, we see that Ukrainians haven't launched any artillery preparation or artillery support, and basically the Ukrainian soldiers stuck in that tree line. The Russians start bombing them heavily, and at some point in some minutes of that offensive operation, most of the Ukrainians took a decision to save their lives, and they basically start running away from dead positions. Meanwhile, the Ukrainians were trying to attack to the south Prokopovka. The Russians also launched their own operation, counter-offensive operation from Kopony in direction of the western flank of Robotyne. Maybe that was the reason why the Ukrainians took a decision to step back, because they saw the Russian counter-attack in direction of the western flank. So maybe there were risks that Ukrainians would be encircled. But on this video, for example, we see the Russian armored vehicle Fist, who was attacking the Ukrainians' edge positions on the western flank. We can see these clashes just from a very long distance, not like from close one. That means that the Russians probably don't have possibilities to fly above this territory. Maybe we're gonna receive more updates upcoming days or hours. Anyway, the clashes, as you can see, were very heavy, and yet we haven't received any results of those clashes. No matter the situation, some sources have calculated already estimated Ukrainian losses just for battle for the western flank. Currently, I'm talking about these few three lines, and according to open source intelligence, open source pictures and geolocations we have, the Ukrainians during the western Robotyne flank battle lost around 26 armored vehicles, tanks, including tanks and just personal carriers, and many other types of weapon. So significant number just for another 500 meters. And I'm not saying that this is the Ukrainians don't know how to fight. This is the current situation. This is the site. This is the thing that we will remember this war, special military operation, in years, that the tank attacks, armored vehicles attacks always ended with one thing, with significant number of losses among the armored vehicles. Currently, neither the Russians nor the Ukrainians have created something new, how to attack, how to penetrate the defense belts, and how to reduce the losses. Maybe FPV drones will replace the original classic offensive operation in the future, but for now it's just talks about the future. Now we are moving to Avdiivka area, where we got also a lot of very interesting updates, and first of all, I would like to discuss with you another important thing, that the Russians are saying that they start massive production of electronic warfare equipment by the name of Volnorez. So this is the Russian electronic warfare equipment, and this is mobile electronic warfare equipment. You don't need to you don't need to have like separate armored vehicle like a Grad system or like artillery system. This is the small thing, this one, as you can see. It's a very small one. It's not very heavy, and the only thing you need to do is to establish this system somewhere on the tank, behind the tank, because usually FPV drones try to attack the tanks behind them, so in the most easy positions, easy targets. And how does this system works? When a drone comes very close to a tank, this Volnorez sends waves, a lot of waves, and the closer FPV drone to this tank or to another equipment where this Volnorez was established, the heavy signals this drone receives. And let's say in 5 meters before the tank or before another armored vehicle or something like this, FPV drones completely lose signal and coordination and basically fell down or missed the target. So this is mobile electronic warfare equipment that can use even a single soldier. For example, you are located in the trenches, let's say somewhere in the vicinity of a chemical plant, or somewhere in Synkivka, or somewhere in Robotyne. The only thing you need is to establish this type of electronic warfare behind your back, and you can be for 100% sure that FPV drone will never get you, because it's the main purpose to change the coordination, destination of FPV drones, and even to capture signals and to break this drone on the ground or something like this. So very important and very important type of weapon, and the most important, this is very small and very cheap, and the Russians do have possibility to start production of this warfare equipment massively. When talking about Avdiivka chemical plant north and southern direction, we haven't received any geolocations from Avdiivka itself during the previous night, just a very interesting photo of the common position, common situation in the southern area, and according to the topographical map, we see that the Ukrainians lost almost every single hill in the area of Avdiivka. So the industrial area was located on the top, on the hill, and that was the highest position on the southern part of area that Ukrainians were using to, let's say, to attack and bomb Donetsk. And now, as you can see, according to this map, there is just one hill left for the Ukrainians, and we are talking about fortification by the name of Tsarskaya Khota, this one. But the Russian hill in industrial area, this one, is located on the higher level in comparison with Tsarskaya Khota, and basically from these positions the Russians can establish and can control the bombardments and navigate and coordinate the Russian artillery FPV drones, not for entire Avdiivka, but at least the southern part of Avdiivka is currently under complete Russian, let's say, control. They can see everything, coordinate artillery strikes. At least it is much more easier than just to use FPV drones. This is the benefits that the Russians managed to achieve by taking the southern industrial area. From the northern part, we had a few geolocations, mainly from the Ukrainian side. On this video, we see how the Ukrainians were bombing the Russian positions on the south of Novokalinovo, on the north of Krasnogorovka, northwest, so which confirms the Russian presence in this area. Another geolocation we got on the west of Krasnogorovka, on the east of Stepova. On these videos, we see a series of FPV drone strikes against the Russian positions, which also confirms the Russian presence in this area. So no updates about any progress of the Russians, let's say in Stepova, Berdichi, or in Severnaya, or and so on, Tonike. When talking about Bahmut, we haven't received any updates about any movements, just a regular situation, regular clashes. We see that Klishchevka area, Bahmut area, also was covered with the snow. As I understand, according to geolocations, there is just one area or maybe two areas that we still haven't received of a geolocated photo confirmation of snow. I'm talking about Avdiivka. There are no snow according to the latest geolocations we have, and probably somewhere in the south of Kherson direction. But Krynky is already covered with snow. So very interesting. Not Rabotina. There is no snow in Rabotina, and there is no snow in Bahmut. Most of the every single other direction is already covered with the snow. So that's why we can compare and understand which updates are new and which of them are old one. So no activity in this area, no heavy activities, no clashes, and so on. And we got a lot of very interesting updates. We continue receiving significant number of updates from Kupiansk direction. The Russians are saying that Ukrainians completely were collapsed in Synkivka, that Ukrainians are forced to step back, are forced to send more reserves, the Russians destroying the pontoon bridges and so on. So the situation in Synkivka at 7 let's say a.m. of the local time report that the Russians had significant progress on the line between Synkivka, Petropavlovka, also in the vicinity of Kotlerovka, Ivanovka. So those were the Russian reports, but when talking about the Ukrainians, they also published their own geolocated video that we will not watch because there are too many casualties, too many losses among the Russian soldiers, and some of them are too cruel. So if you have access to this map, you can find this video in the vicinity of Orlyanka in Kupiansk direction. On this video we can see the bombardments of 14th Mechanized Brigade of Ukrainian forces. This is 14th Mechanized Brigade of its FPV drone squads. They were bombing the Russian infantry, significant number of Russian infantry. Now when I watched watched those scenes in this video, I had a feeling that this is something like 1943 winter campaign, or maybe 1942, where the Russians were attacking the Germany positions with significant number of infantry. There were lots of soldiers without armored vehicles running across the fields in the direction of Ukrainian positions, and all of them were bombed by the Ukrainian FPV drones and artillery. So if you have access, I suggest to take a look at this video. So anyway, this is like something like a geolocated proof that the Russians do attacks and try to penetrate this defense belt. Also, if you remember, a few days ago we discussed, during the previous few days we were talking about the Abrams, and today we got more details about Abrams and so on. And according to information we have, if you remember, on the 20th of November, Lloyd Austin arrived in Ukraine, and one of the questions Lloyd Austin and Zelensky were talking about was the usage of Abrams on the ground. And Lloyd Austin asked Zelensky to return back Abrams because due to the, let's say, reputational PR losses and media losses of this type of machine, because according to information we have, the Ukrainians tried to involve up to 7 Abrams in the operation on the ground. So Zelensky and Ukrainian authorities sent 7 Abrams to fight with the Russians, but 4 of them were destroyed by missile strike while being transported across the territory of Ukraine, and 3 of them in case of incorrect and transportation in the Nikolaev area. So, and probably as I understand, Austin was asking Zelensky to return those 7 Abrams, maybe more, and he promised Zelensky to give him in exchange 28 Leopard second that were purchased from the third countries. So, but as you can see, Zelensky took a decision to make a small reputational damage, and we got the first photos of Abrams exactly in the Kupiansk direction. So we'll see. The conflict between Zelensky and Zaluzhny continue rising, and the thing is that the 2024 is around to start. I'm talking about here, and obviously now this is the period of time for every single country to approve the budgets, and the Ukrainians also need to approve not just the financial budget but military budget as well. And to approve military budget, you need to know the expenses, you need to know the plans and operations, and basically by the 27th of November, Zaluzhny still haven't provided Zelensky any plans about the military campaign of 2024. And a lot of people, a lot of Ukrainian authorities start claiming and start saying bad words about Zaluzhny, about his any impossibilities to make any plans and so on. And as I understand, the days of Zaluzhny are numbered. Obviously, he will be dismissed and someone else will be adopted on this position for the campaign of 2024. Basically, Zaluzhny doesn't want to be a responsible person for the massacre of the beginning of 2024, which obviously is going to take place under control of Zelensky. And that's it for the short video. Military Summer channel reminds we condemn any violence in the world. Thank you for watching. Subscribe to my channel, put your likes, join my Patreon, and have a good day. Bye bye.